Thank you for coming out and joining us today. On behalf of the Office of Admissions, we are pleased to welcome you all to Georgetown University in Qatar. My name is Sara Al-Mtota. I'm the second year student here at Georgetown, Qatar, and I will be your fabulous host for the evening. Today's program will walk you through various aspects of the Georgetown University experience, from the history to the academic life to admissions and financial aid. We invite you to join us afterwards for dinner and a fair where we will be happy to answer all the questions that you guys may have. To begin this program, I am pleased to introduce Dr. Ahmed Dalal, Dean of Georgetown University in Qatar. While Dean Dalal joined the Georgetown University in Qatar in fall, he previously served as an associate professor and a chair of Georgetown's Arabic and Islamic Studies department from 2003 to 2009. Most recently, he was a history professor and a former provost at the American University in Beirut. And he also taught at Stanford University, Yale University, and Smith College. He's an expert in classical and modern Islamic thought, as well as the history of science and disciplines of learning in Muslim societies. We are pleased to have him lead Georgetown University in Qatar today. And I would like you all to help me welcome him to the stage to offer a welcome of his own.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening. We're delighted to have you all with us tonight. We've prepared for you a full program with presentations from deans and the faculty members and members of the administrative staff, and of course, last but not least, students and peers like you, hopefully, who will share with you many of the good things that we do here at Georgetown. This is a great place. I'm new, as Sarah said, I'm new here at Georgetown. I've been around, I've been to many different places, and I can assure you that this is a wonderful, wonderful place to be. There are amazing experiences one can gain, and I hope, throughout the evening you will get a sense of the types of things that we do here in Qatar. مساء الخير، أهلا وسهلا، السلام عليكم. أنا سعيد بالترحيب بكم هنا في جامعة جورجتاون في قطر. لقد أعددنا لكم برنامج حافل بالمداخلات من عمداء وأساتذة وأعضاء الهيئة الإدارية وطلاب في جامعة جورجتاون. سيطلعونكم خلال هذا البرنامج على عدد من الأشياء والبرامج الموجودة هنا في جامعة جورجتاون. كما قلت في المقدمة الإنجليزية، أنا أتيت إلى جامعة جورجتاون مؤخرا، بداية من شهرين ونصف، ولكن خلال تجربتي الطويلة في الأكاديمية أؤكد لكم أن هذه الجامعة جامعة جيدة ومليئة بالمفاجآت، وأن مستقبلكم في هذه الجامعة سيكون مستقبل زاهر. أهلا وسهلا مرة أخرى في جامعة جورجتاون. والآن now I'll give the forum to my colleagues to start the program. شكرا.
Thank you, Dean Dalal. So as you guys know, to understand any situation or any story, we need some historical context. So to tell us a little bit more about the history of Georgetown University, its efforts in Qatar and around the world, please help me welcome to the stage Dean Brendan Hill, Senior Associate Dean for Students.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to see you all here. I am a historian by training, so I am obligated to bore you a bit with a little bit of the history of Georgetown, but just stay with me. I think it's a pretty fascinating one. As you can see by the date on the seal up there, Georgetown was founded in 1789. 1789 was a very interesting year in world history. The most important thing, of course, was the founding of Georgetown, but there was also a small matter called the French Revolution going on, and it was the time at which the American Revolution was finally settled in the adoption of the U.S. Constitution as we know it today. The conjunction of these various events is an interesting one. The French Revolution was a very radical form of revolution for as long as it lasted. It involved the total eradication, for a while at least, of everything that French society had been. Almost the reversal, almost the negation of the well-ordered feudal hierarchy that predated it. The American Revolution was much more conservative one. It didn't get rid of the old order entirely. It modified the new order to meet the place that the nation saw itself taking as we move forward. And I think that's really interesting because Georgetown is founded at a time when the American Republic is both preserving tradition and moving toward modernity at the same time. It's kind of the compromise between tradition and modernity, or I wouldn't say compromise necessarily as the kind of becoming edge of modernity, but with an eye toward tradition. So I think if you remember that date and you remember 1789 and our founding and the context in which we're founded, you'll understand a lot of what Georgetown is about. It's about respect for the traditional, but a desire for modernity. Another date. I usually call this lecture the 4 dates in history lecture, but I'm just giving you a speeded up version. 1865. The nation that was founded in 1789 with the adoption of the Constitution has just undergone a horrific, bloody civil war. Georgetown, its location in Washington, D.C., placed it right at the border between the North and the South. Georgetown had students from both the North and the South, before the war, during the war, and after the war. When the war ended in 1865, or shortly after the war ended in 1865, Georgetown adopted its colors, blue and gray, which I'm wearing today, and which you'll see kind of all around you as you look at our promotional literature. The blue was the color of the uniforms of the North, and the gray was the colors of the uniform of the South in the Civil War. And the adoption of the two colors was an attempt at the time of Georgetown to reconcile these two opposing forces. And I think this is also significant because if 1789 underscored Georgetown's belief in tradition and desire for modernity, then 1865 showed its belief in reconciliation, in bringing opposing sides together, in moving forward as a nation. Fast forward to 1919. In 1919, Georgetown founded the School of Foreign Service. The School of Foreign Service was founded by a man named Edmund A. Walsh, who had been a professor in government at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. Edmund Walsh was one of the American contingent that went to negotiate the peace after the most disastrous war, world war in history up till that date, World War I. When he got there, what he noticed was that the American delegation was not as polished as the delegations from the other European countries. America had, it's generally believed, just departed a time of isolationism. It wasn't really isolationist, it was just involved in its own Western hemisphere. But this was America's entree onto the global stage, and Edmund Walsh felt that American diplomats were unprepared for that. So he went back to Georgetown and he thought, look, Georgetown is in Washington, D.C. He went to the powers that be at Georgetown and said, we need to found a School of Foreign Service in order to train Americans to better serve a global environment. And that's another hallmark of Georgetown University. Georgetown University is one of the most international universities in the United States. It's constantly thinking about America's place vis-a-vis the rest of the world and about global issues. Fast forward again, 2005. Qatari government invites Georgetown University School of Foreign Service to open a branch in Qatar. The reason why this is such a culminating event, I believe, in Georgetown's history, and I've been with Georgetown for a long time, I've been with Georgetown for 27 years, is it really brought together those three things that the earlier dates talk about. Like Georgetown, Qatar appreciates tradition and desires modernity. Like Georgetown, Qatar has poised itself in the global community to reconcile opposites. Not just the opposition of tradition and modernity, but opposites all over. Qatar's foreign policy is testament to its attempt to position itself as a broker for peace around the world. Like Georgetown, Qatar desired an international presence and understood the necessity of internationalism in developing its society and developing its foreign policy. So in so many ways, this conjunction of this thing that was born in 2005, the School of Foreign Service in Qatar, was the perfect marriage between a country and a university that shared many of the same goals. So as you contemplate applying to Georgetown University, I want you to understand now 12 years on from the founding in 2005 of the School of Foreign Service in Qatar, what your place in this long history of Georgetown is going to be, what your place in the history of Qatar is going to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean Hill, for that very brief history lesson. And now to tell us more about the Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service program and just academics in general here at Georgetown University in Qatar, please welcome to the stage Dean James McGregor, Associate Dean for Academic Affairs.
All right, there we go. So Dean Hill is always a tough act to follow. So I need to kind of come down here on the floor and get right in your face a little bit, get your attention after that fantastic performance. So as has been indicated, I'm the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, and I've been given like 7 to 10 minutes to tell you what I do for a living, which is sort of manage and oversee the academics of this institution. So I will do the best I can to make this brief and hit all the highlights. We offer one degree here, only one degree, and that is the BSFS degree, the Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service. So every student who matriculates here in 4 years' time will get the exact same degree, and it is identical in all material aspects to the same degree that students earn in Washington, D.C. There is no distinction between the degrees. The curriculum between the two schools is identical. The basic academic degree requirements that every student has to complete in order to earn the BSFS degree, there's 3 basic requirements. Students have to complete our core curriculum. Students have to complete the curriculum of one of our 4 major fields of study. And students have to demonstrate proficiency in one foreign language other than English. And so once students have done those 3 things, usually in the period of 4 years or 8 semesters, they're eligible to graduate with the BSFS degree from here at GUQ. I will spend most of my time right now talking to you a bit about our core curriculum. I'm going to have a panel of my faculty colleagues who will be up here after me. They are going to tell you in much more detail about the major curriculum. But the core curriculum is probably the most important element of what we do here in terms of understanding Georgetown, understanding Georgetown's ethos, understanding the nature of the education that you'll receive if you choose to attend Georgetown University next year. You know, the degree is called the Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service. Dean Hill explained that it has this name from the founding of the institution in 1919. And that as an institution, it really was initially intended to develop American diplomats. It was intended to produce diplomats who would go and serve the United States in the foreign service of their country. In the roughly 100 years that have transpired since then, the school has broadened out its definition of foreign service somewhat. And not every student that graduates from the School of Foreign Service now enters diplomatic service. Our students, when they earn their degrees, go out into the world, and they do all kinds of very different things. But what we expect all of our graduates to do is, in their own way, shape, or form, engage in service. We expect our graduates to serve their communities, to serve their fellow men and women in the world around them. Whether they do that in the service of their government, whether they do that in the service of a corporation they work for, whether they do that within the context of their private or their public lives, doesn't matter to us, but we want to prepare graduates to go into the world and to serve, to make the world a better place. And this is the very ethos at Georgetown, and you find that ethos instilled in our core curriculum, the element of our curriculum that every student has to complete. And when you look at our core curriculum, and when you look at the subjects students study in it, I think you can, it's easy for me at any rate, and hopefully I can help you see how service is instilled in that. Because we require our students to take courses in things like history, in philosophy, in economics, in theology. These are all fields of study that put human beings at the center of what they do. The entire core curriculum, through fields of study like the ones I just named, prepare students not only to understand the world, but to understand people, right? History, for example, is vital to who all of us are as individuals, but it also helps us understand our place in the world because we base our understanding of that place on the knowledge we have of the history of the country that we grew up in. Theology is important. Religion matters to people around the world. There are lots of different religious traditions. Therefore, if you study theology and you can develop an understanding of various theological traditions, it puts you in a position to better understand others. Understanding other people's history puts you in a position to better understand how they see their place in the world. Understanding different philosophical traditions similarly places you in a position to understand how people conceive of themselves and their place in the universe. And if you can understand these things, right, if you can engage in a course of study that helps you understand people and understand how they see themselves in the world, it enables you to have conversations. And this, at the end of the day, is what we want to equip Georgetown students to do. We want to equip them to go into the world, we want to equip them to understand other people, and we want to equip them to talk to those people. Because only by talking to people and by understanding those people can you adequately serve them. And so that is the ethos that underpins our core curriculum. It is the ethos that goes on to underpin our major curriculum, whether students choose to study economics or history or politics or culture and politics. It's embedded throughout. And finally, it's embedded in our foreign language requirement. Because unless you can actually go into the world and speak to people in their own language, then it becomes very challenging to adequately and effectively serve them. So, that is my nutshell pitch for Georgetown's curriculum, for what we do around here. I, along with my colleagues, will be out in the atrium here afterwards. Happy to answer any more specific questions you may have about Georgetown. And with that, I think I will hand it back over to our hostess. Thank you.
So essentially, a degree of science in School of Foreign Service makes you an expert in the art of icebreaking, essentially. Thank you so much for that. Next, we have 4 distinguished professors who serve as the chair of each of our 4 majors here at Georgetown University in Qatar. They will speak more about the majors and the curriculum. So, without further ado, for international politics, please welcome Associate Professor Sonia Alonso. For international history, please welcome Associate Professor Riza Pirbai. For culture and politics, please welcome Associate Professor Jeremy Coons. And for international economics, please welcome Associate Professor Daniel Westbrook.
I'm the lucky one. Hello, everybody. It's very nice this is actually the first time that faculty members, I think, participate here, and we are delighted to do it. My name is Sonia Alonso. I am the curricular chair of the international politics major. I come originally from Spain, and before joining GUQ here in Qatar, I was for 10 years at the Social Science Research Center in Berlin. So let me tell you very briefly, because we were given between 3 and 5 minutes to talk about our respective majors, very briefly, what is international politics about? I will start with the politics, and then I will continue with the international part of it. So politics is about power, obviously. And in international politics, we deal with 4 main questions about power. Who holds power? How is power generated? why people use power the way they do, for what purposes. And obviously, it is international politics. So that means that we are dealing with relationships of power between countries. But this also means that we are looking into relationships of power within countries between different social groups. Because what happens inside a country is very important for the positions that country is going to take in the international arena, and equally, where that country stays in the international arena matters a lot for what groups inside the country are going to decide to do. Now, we actually live now in very interesting times, maybe even too interesting times. And the question would be, what can political science tell us about these times that we don't already know? We are facing challenges, global challenges that are almost quasi-existential for humankind right now. If you think about historical, dramatic historical events or political events, like right now we're living in the middle of this Gulf crisis. So can political science help us here? And I would say two things in this respect. First of all, political science belongs to the social sciences, and as such, it tries to have a scientific method for looking at things, for collecting empirical data, for analyzing data, for testing theories about what happened and why it happens. So in this sense, we try to go a step forward for what, the normal people on the street know about these things. And we try to make it scientific so that we can actually explain, and when we are lucky, to predict, but most of the times we're never lucky. The second thing I would like to say is that political science would not work, and we as political scientists would be lost without our historians, philosophers, anthropologists, economists, sociologists. We need each other because the real world is highly complex and no single discipline has all the answers. This is why a liberal arts degree has the best of all worlds. So let me go back to the question that I started with, how can political science tell us something that we don't know already? And let me rephrase it and say, how can a liberal arts degree help us know something that we don't know already? And if you want to find out, you will have to join us.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Raza Pirbhai. I'm a historian here at SFSQ, and I've been asked to speak a little bit about the International History Program. So let me start by saying something that I've learned over the years, and that is that no matter what I say, I think many of you will go home and speak to your parents, and you'll say, my God, there was this brilliant man sitting on a stage who told me so much about history and its importance, and your parents, and you'll say, I really want to major in history, and your parents will say, le. I'm not sending you for an education to learn something useless like history. Why would you do that? Go learn political science, go learn economics, get a good job. Well, there's some truth to that. But what I would emphasize ultimately is that you're not majoring in history in the sense that you're in a history department and getting a degree in history. International history here at SFSQ is part of this broader curriculum which Dr. Alonso has already spoken of in terms of international politics, and which my colleagues to the left will be speaking about in terms of culture and politics, as well as international economics. What history does and the role it plays within this broader curriculum is ultimately to get you a sense, give you a sense of grounding, I would say. So while you're being introduced to a number of different theoretical approaches to the political formations that govern the world in which we live, the manner in which culture, including anthropological and sociological and theological perspectives, shape your understanding of the world, the manner in which economics, money of course makes the world go round, they say, and this is very much true. But what history does is give you a sense of how we've come to be here. And without that, the kind of education that the School of Foreign Service seeks to impart would be sorely lacking, because it would lack that anchor, it would lack that foundation that history provides. So how do we provide it? Well, within the program, we offer classes that first introduce you to world history. So a way in which to look at the historical process from a global perspective. From there, we also start to offer courses that take a more regional perspective. So the history of a given region, the Middle East or South Asia or East Asia and so on, Europe, the Americas. And from there, courses move on to more specialized topics in the historical discipline, looking at issues of diplomacy from one state in relation to another, or the manner in which literary history has evolved and shaped a particular region, or religious history, and so on. So through all of these different types of history courses, and if you were to major in history, you would have 8 courses coming out of international history. What you end up with, hopefully, is a sense of where we've been, and not just that, but how we've got to be where we are. And I, at least as a historian, can unabashedly say that without that, you really don't know anything at all. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm Jeremy Coons. I'm the field chair for Culture and Politics. One thing that Dean Hill, from whom you have already heard, said to students some years ago that struck me and that has stayed with me over the years, maybe he's already said this to you, maybe I'm repeating him, is that everyone at Georgetown in the School of Foreign Service gets an international relations degree. Everybody takes international relations. Everyone takes comparative political systems. Everyone takes 4 econ courses, soon to be 3. I'm not sure when that's being implemented. Everyone takes map of the modern world. Everyone has to have their language proficiency. Everyone has an international relations degree. What you choose when you choose a major is basically a focus or a specialization, how to aim your international relations degree according to your interests, according to the things that you find interesting, right? Whether that be international politics or international history or culture and politics or international economics. And what we do in culture and politics, like international politics, we focus on power, but we focus on power from a different perspective. Now, normally when people think of power, they think of overt political power or military power or police power. But in culture and politics, we focus on the way that culture exercises power over you. And culture exercises power over you in a lot of very powerful ways, in a lot of very subtle ways. It exercises power over almost every aspect of your life, over how you dress, how you pray, over the language that you speak, over who we give authority to, the people whom we trust, the people whom we listen to. Maybe this person will tell you something and you won't believe them, but you'll believe them if this person tells it to you. This whole idea of who has authority in society, whom we listen to, whose testimony we believe, is a matter of power and authority, and this is something that is transmitted to us by culture. Who are you allowed to socialize with? Who are you not allowed to socialize with? Who is regarded as a member of your community? Who is excluded from your community? Who is an outsider? Who is the other? These are issues of cultural power, and these are ways in which culture exerts power over us and over others. And this is what we study in culture and politics. And we study this from many different perspectives. We study this from the perspective of philosophy and theology and anthropology, and even we borrow from history and from the other disciplines. So again, all of these represent different ways of focusing on the same thing, which is international relations, but focusing on it from different perspectives. Now, one of the things that you do in the culture and politics major is you have your elective courses that you take, and you design, even within culture and politics, your own specialization. You pick, with your dean, a series of courses that will focus on something that you really find interesting during your time here. Maybe you find the question of gender really interesting, or maybe you find the modern Middle East really interesting, or maybe you find cinema or poetry really interesting. And you'll pick a series of courses, that will focus on that thing that you found really interesting, so that the major, the culture and politics major that you have in your hand is truly yours. It's one that you've picked, it's one that you've designed with your dean around your specific interests and the things that really grab your interest and they're the things that you really want to focus on. So that's what culture and politics is about. That's what the culture and politics major is all about. And that's the thing that if you're excited about, then we're excited to have you with us doing culture and politics.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Dan Westbrook. I'm one of 7 economics faculty here at SFSQ. I spent about 30 years in Washington, D.C. in the economics department before coming out here. And I think after listening to my colleagues, maybe I'll change majors. I'm not sure. So the economics program provides rigorous training in economic analysis and quantitative methods. The objective is to understand markets, to understand how economic policy affects the welfare of individuals and households and countries, and to understand the economic relationships among countries. Our capstone is a year-long senior seminar, in which a student writes a thesis directed by a faculty member. Let me give you one example. This year, one of our students opens his thesis with a quote from an old Chinese saying that says, "If you want the village to get rich, build a road." And so the student wants to find out whether this advice works. One of my colleagues happens to have studied the Golden Quadrilateral in India. The Golden Quadrilateral is a huge highway project that virtually encircles the whole country of India. And my colleague studied the effect of this highway system on transportation costs. Our student wanted to narrow the topic down a bit and see. She wants to know how that project affects the welfare of households near the highway. So she's got an amazing data set of several thousand households from several hundred villages all along the route of the highway, both before it was built and after it's built. And she's estimating the degree to which the presence of that road has improved employment prospects and household incomes. If this is the kind of, interesting and important work that our students get to do, and if this sort of thing appeals to you, you can come here and do that sort of work as well.
Thank you so much, professors. And now I'm confused more than ever about what I'm going to major in, so thank you for that. Now that we've heard about Georgetown University, our history, our programs, and academics here, I'm sure you're all asking yourselves, how am I gonna get in here? So to talk about our admissions process and what makes you a good applicant, please welcome Ms. Jihan Samara, Associate Director of Admissions.
Thank you, Sarah. السلام عليكم. أهلا وسهلا. بحب أرحب فيكم في جامعة جورجتاون في اليوم المفتوح أو اليوم التعريفي لجامعة جورجتاون. Hello and welcome again to Georgetown University. I hope you're, after hearing from our wonderful speakers, as Sarah mentioned, that you're now excited to join the university and learn more about our admission process. So before I walk you through the application process or how to apply to Georgetown, I just wanted to give you a quick idea about what we look for. You often hear us use words like competitive and holistic. What do these words mean? At Georgetown, we receive a large number of applications every year, and we're looking to enroll between 75 to 80 students. So we have to be selective. We're looking for strong profiles, applicants with strong profiles, but those who are also the right fit for the university. At Georgetown, we have a holistic process. What does that mean? It means that we're not simply looking for students with top scores. There is more to that. We're looking for students who are well-rounded, they have an overall strong profile, and we take into consideration other factors in their application file as well. Our admission process is done through an admissions committee, and different members of the committee bring different views or perspectives to the table. We would like to ensure that we're looking at every applicant as an individual, taking into account their strengths and also their possible weaknesses. So what is it that we look for? First and foremost, and the most important factor would be academic excellence or academic strength. So in academic strength, we look for the students' curriculum. We look at the rigor of that curriculum or look at their high school performance. We ask questions such as, what kind of subjects did the student take? Did they challenge themselves academically? If they had the choice, did they actually take the highest level of courses offered at their school? Did they choose courses that are relevant to what we teach here at Georgetown and prepares them for our curriculum? Do they have the breadth of courses or subjects from English to math to social sciences and sciences? And of course, how well are they performing? Are these students earning good grades? These are all important considerations. Also, part of the academics is your test scores. So one thing to keep in mind about SAT and ACT is that these are exams that assess the readiness of an applicant to engage in a university-level coursework, which means the higher your grades on ACT or SAT, the more likely you are to succeed in your first year of university. Same thing with TOEFL and IELTS. These are exams that measure your proficiency in English language, which is very important to us as a university that delivers a rigorous curriculum fully in English. But this is not all what we look for. Academics is very important. It plays the major role, but we also look for other factors. We look for students who are active, engaged, motivated. We look for students who have an interest in what we teach, and those who are looking to make a difference, whether it's in their smaller circle or even the bigger community. We also look for students who value the liberal arts education. They appreciate the value of a liberal arts education, those who would be the right fit for the university. And of course, one of the things we want to ensure is diversity. When we talk about diversity, we're looking for a diverse class in terms of nationality, in terms of gender, in terms of socioeconomic background, but also in terms of educational systems. All these are actually inspired, or the admission process is inspired by the Georgetown Values. You've heard the word Georgetown ethos a few times tonight. These are actually values that inspired Georgetown and guide our operation and make us the unique and distinctive educational facility or educational institution that we are. So some of them actually affect our admission process or somehow inspire our admission process, from academic excellence to caring for the individual, giving them individual attention to their needs, their circumstances, and their unique characters. That's actually the reason when students come up to us during school visits or at events like this and ask, what was the minimum score that I have to achieve on an IELTS exam? Or what grade or GPA do I need to ensure that I'm admitted to Georgetown? It's very hard to give you a specific number. Why? Because basically our admission process is not based on numbers or numbers driven. It's actually more holistic. We look at the broader picture. We're looking for what makes you a unique applicant. Yes, a strong applicant academically, but also the right fit for the university. So how do you prepare for admission to Georgetown University? First and most importantly, be a good student. Don't shy away from taking challenging subjects. Challenge yourself academically. If you have the choice, choose subjects that would prepare you for the curriculum we teach at Georgetown. And of course, earn good grades. You have to remember that all your grades from all years of high school will actually count. Talk to your counselor. You have a counselor. If you have a counselor at school, they can always be a good source. Talk to them when you're selecting your subject. Talk to them about your future plans, what you might want to major at university. Is this the right program for you? And involve your parents early on as well. Test early. This is important. Always give yourself a chance to retake the exam in case you need to improve your scores. Don't wait until the last minute. Plan ahead. These tests, it would take, you need to apply early for these tests. It's minimum of 4 weeks. Scores sometimes take up to 4 to 6 weeks for us to receive them. And you have to keep in mind that the latest test dates that work for our admission process are usually offered in December and January. Research universities, get in touch with the admission officers. Don't depend on what you think you know or maybe what your friend told you. Don't assume that all universities have the same requirements or we all follow the same deadlines. Visit the admission office, get in touch with an admission officer. Actually, we would like to see that interest. It's a good thing that we know that the student is interested, is engaged, and wants to learn more about the university. And for that, I actually would like to thank you all for being proactive in coming tonight to learn about Georgetown, so thank you. Engage in extracurricular activities, that's important. It's a plus point. It makes you more appealing to the admission offices, and it definitely helps you to develop personally. So in terms of the application requirements, in order for you to start your application process, you need to submit an online application form. The advice is always start early. You don't have to wait until you have all the required documents ready for you. No, you can start the process, work on your application, save your progress, and once you feel you're ready to submit, go ahead and submit your online application. We have a list of supporting documents, so personal statement. We usually require a personal statement that's between 1 to 2 pages type. Don't make it too long. Remember that we read individual files, so you don't want to make our life too difficult. Think about the personal statement as your opportunity for the committee members to learn more about you as a person, beyond test scores and subjects. This is your opportunity to show them what you aspire for, why do you think you're the right fit for Georgetown, and so on. Reference letters are also important, so we require a reference letter from your school counselor and a reference letter from a teacher. Both personal statement and references actually make a big part of that holistic review process that we're talking about. And both can, by the way, should be submitted online. Transcripts and tests and grades, grade reports. So we require transcripts, official transcripts for high school grades 10, 11, and the first semester of 12. If students have already finished high school and they're already engaged in a post-secondary academic program, then we require transcripts for that as well. And lastly, of course, the test scores. So you have to submit scores for SAT or ACT in addition to TOEFL or IELTS. To us, actually, it doesn't matter whether you decide to test for SAT or ACT, TOEFL or IELTS. They're all the same to us. And if the applicant happens to take both, let's say the SAT and ACT, we will review your file or consider the highest of both. Some students may be required to come in for a controlled writing exercise and or an interview. In case you're needed to take any of those, then we will contact you. But one thing to note about our interviews, the interview process is that it's only by invitation, so students don't have to actually contact us to schedule the interview. If we need that, we will get in touch with you. And we don't necessarily interview all our applicants. So if you're not called in for an interview, don't panic. It's not necessarily a bad sign. This is our admission timeline. So for those who are applying for fall 2018, the deadline to submit your online application form is February 1st. Don't wait until the last minute. Again, it's always good to go home and start it now if you're interested. And then the deadline to submit all your required documents is March 1st. Just one last note before I end my presentation. So I wanted to clarify that Georgetown University is committed to meeting the full need of all of its incoming students. At Georgetown, Qatar, we provide scholarships and grants that are need-based. And if you want to be considered for either program, you will have to submit an application. It's an online form that's also known as the CSS profile, and you have to submit supporting documents. The CSS profile is not intended only for American citizens. So if you're stuck on a question that seems too American-based, you can just let us know, and we will work with you in order to figure that out. Also, we're also joined by Miss Naila tonight. She will be at the reception afterwards. If you have specific questions regarding the financial aid process at Georgetown, you can talk to her. Qatar Foundation also provides generous need-based student loans as well as scholarships. They also require an application process, and with that, I would like to invite Mr. Abdelaziz Al-Khanji from Qatar Foundation Financial Aid Office to talk to you more about their process. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm very much delighted to be participating in the open house of Georgetown in Qatar. I would like to thank Georgetown for hosting us. I'm representing Student Financial Services from Qatar Foundation as being introduced. My name is Abdelaziz Al-Khanji and I work for Student Financial Services as a scholarship lead. So I'm here to meet students who are planning to pursue their education here in the School of Foreign Affairs. Basically, we do provide two kinds of services. The first one is the financial aid loan or student loan. It's a free of interest loan that is given on a need base for international students who have their families either based in Qatar or out of Qatar. Student to apply for financial aid, they should first get an acceptance in one of the universities here in the education city in Doha. And then they should demonstrate financial need. They should also be on a good academic standard. They should be admitted as a full-time student. And again, they should, during their studies, they should also maintain the good academic standard. We do also provide another kind of service, which is the Emeritus Scholarship. And the student cannot combine both financial aid and Emeritus Scholarship because scholarship will cover all the tuition and we'll come to this point later on. So, as I said earlier, both resident and non-resident students, I mean students with their families based in Doha, in Qatar, or out of Qatar, they can apply for financial aid, and the financial aid comes on the term of percentage of tuition and housing in some cases for resident, and housing and tuition for non-resident students. As I said, it's a loan, so there's a repayment for this loan. We do have two methods of repayment for the student loan. The first is after graduation, 6 months after graduation, we expect a student to start repaying the loan by 15% of the net income. We expect them, of course, to be employed by this time. The student will go for the loan repayment scheduling if they are employed in or out of Qatar in an organization that does not have any governmental share, or none of the I would say big businesses in Qatar which really impact on Qatar economics, even if they are private, because we do have on our repayment list some of the private sector as well. So paid service, here we're talking about the repayment list. The paid service is that after graduation, you will be employed, you will be getting your full salary, but you won't be paying us anything back. The loan will be waived according to the number of years that you will work in this certain organization and or company. Scholarship. After completing 2 consecutive semesters in the education city and scoring a GPA of 3.6, you are eligible to apply for a scholarship. However, that does not secure the scholarship because most of our students are super talented, especially in Georgetown. So we do have limited seats for scholarships every year, and we start distributing or awarding the scholarship from 4. I would say, seriously, this year, we stopped at 3.9 in Georgetown. So not even a 3.8, no 3.7, no 3.6. So you should work really hard to get the scholarship. So those are our dates to apply for financial aid. We open the cycle in 1st of February each year. For the upcoming year, we'll be opening on 1st of February 2018. And will close for financial aid on 2nd of March. So I'm really sorry. This is the returning student cycle for the ongoing. On 15th of March until 31st of May, the cycle for new student will start. And I got confused because I handle only scholarship, not financial aid. So as I said, the deadline will be 31st of May 2018 to apply for the financial aid. Between 15th of May and 5th of June, the cycle for scholarship will start. Returning and new students are expected to submit their contract from the beginning of June 2018. And the deadline to submit all the contract is the end of first week of the academic year. I do really wish you all the best. اسمحوا لي, I'll shift to Arabic in very few words. أتمنى لكم التوفيق. فخورين جدا فيكم. فخور بعدد الشباب هالمرة أكثر من كل مرة, يعني العادة يكون ماجورتي بنات, فخور جدا بعدد الشباب إنه زاد هذه المرة. شدوا حيلكم. حطوا في بالكم نقطة جدا مهمة. احنا في الجامعة نتعلم سكيلز أكثر من إن نتعلم يعني معلومات. أنت في النهاية بتتخرج مش كمبيوتر ولا كتاب, أنت بتتخرج إنسان عنده سكيلز وعنده قدرات. وفي جورجتاون I promise you, أوعدكم أن السكيلز اللي عندكم بتكون جدا عالية. أتمنى لكم التوفيق مرة ثانية وشكرا على حسن الاستماع. Thank you Georgetown. أنا ذلكم شكرا.
I feel like we all need to take a deep breath after that. It's okay, you guys got this. Don't worry. Thank you, Jihan. Thank you, Abdulaziz. So this evening, we are joined by one of our graduates, Salman Khan. And Salman is a graduate of the class of 2016. He graduated magna cum laude with a major in international politics. While at Georgetown, Salman interned at the Center for International and Regional Studies for 4 years, working on the CIRS books, Food Security in the Middle East, Sectarian Politics in the Gulf, and Bullets and Bulletins, Media and Politics in the Wake of the Arab Uprisings. He also served as the deputy editor of the Middle Eastern Studies Students Association, MESA journal. Salman also beat 60 other competitors to be named the winner of the Student Poster Presentations Award in the Qatar Foundation Annual Research Conference in 2014 under the patronage of Her Highness Sheikha Moza bint Nasser for his presentation based on an undergraduate research experience program, project titled Advancing Financial Literacy for Transnational Families. Salman is currently working as an editor at Qatar Foundation's Communications Office. While working at Qatar Foundation, he wrote speeches for Her Highness Sheikha Moza bint Nasser and Her Highness Sheikha Hind bint Hamad Al Thani. He wrote Qatar Foundation's official public manifesto outlining its visions for the future, and he also worked on the crisis management team during the first weeks of the GCC blockade. Please help me in welcoming Salman Khan, who won. Yeah.
I'm very sorry for the long introduction. They asked me not to be humble. Hi, my name is Salman, and I graduated a year ago in Georgetown, and I think it was almost 4 or 5 years ago where I was in an event just like this where I for the first time in my life I realized that Georgetown might be a place that I would be interested in, because politics was not always something that really fascinated me that much as a kid. I wasn't one of those really talented children who were always going to all the Model United Nations or all of the debate classes. I was very interested in media and film, and a lot of those things that really interested me were not really what I thought were being offered at Georgetown. And I was attending one of these events, and I heard Dean Hill talk. And Dean Hill brought up a really interesting point, which was he brought up while during the entire presentation, where we also had a panel of professors talking about all the different degree options that are brought up, he put up a chart with the list of companies where all the alumni have been working from Georgetown. And that chart, when I saw the diversity in it, I realized that there are only there was only a very small percentage of Georgetown alumni that actually end up working in the public sector. The large majority of those alumni are working in the private sector and are working in a lot of different companies and organizations across the world, and ranging from different fields such as communications for myself, and like a lot of other, I have friends working in auditing, I have friends working in like media, communications, and we also have people working in the foreign affairs of a lot of different countries. So that was when I first realized that Georgetown might be a place where, you know, it might not be the direct fit for my particular talents, but specifically when I saw the types of courses that are being offered at Georgetown. Because if I went to a place like, I don't want to name shame, but if I went to a place like Northwestern, and my brother did go to Northwestern, and I looked at the curriculums from both places, and the Georgetown curriculum is a much more diverse and much more holistic curriculum where you actually get to study a range of fields. So if in one university I would just be studying media and communications, in Georgetown I would be studying theology, philosophy, sociology, history, different subjects related to maths, economics, all of these different fields, they all come together. And once I saw that diversity that was being offered, I saw Georgetown was a place where I would actually learn a lot more. Even there are things in different subjects that are more technical, which you don't really get in a liberal arts field. You might not get the specific skills needed for a specific kind of job. But what Georgetown, I feel, did best throughout my 4 years here was they pretty much taught us how to learn how to learn. Right, so it's learning how to learn is a really key theme in Georgetown, and that's something I used in a lot of. Honestly, you learn a lot in classes, but what happens outside of the classes is equally important. I had the privilege to attend do a lot of internships and actually do some fellowships as well, and they really helped me understand what I really wanted to do in my future career, and even if I wasn't necessarily going into foreign policy, it sort of really opened up a lot of doors, because with events like, we used to do this thing called crisis simulation, which was always one of the most interesting experiences I had. And crisis simulation was a program where they would sort of give us this fictional scenario or a potential scenario that could happen, let's say relating to the Syrian crisis, or let's say to the refugee crisis. And we would sort of, as students, we would all come together and sort of, it would be a one-day intensive sort of simulation exercise where all students would get together and sort of really look at an issue and really explore it from all stakeholders' perspective. And that's actually something, even though that was a really fun exercise in university, I've actually used it in my current job as well at Qatar Foundation. And we had a crisis of our own where during the blockade, where we had a lot of the things that we were discussing, and a lot of the movement that were going on really reminded me of what we had studied at Georgetown. And I think that's the key thing that Georgetown gives you. It gives you this diversity of not just diversity of opinions, but a diversity of fields, ideas, explorations. And you don't really know. I had not had an opportunity to study philosophy while I was in high school, and I didn't realize how interested I would be in a field like that. Or with history. I mean, history always seemed like a very boring subject back in school, but when you have professors like Professor Pirbhai and Professor Dean Hill teaching the subject, they really try to get you really involved in the discussions. They really get you involved in the major debates that are happening. You might not remember all the dates, but you really have a much better holistic understanding of the complexities of a particular crisis or a particular field. And I think that's also, I don't know where Mariam is, please stop me when I'm over time. There's also something that Georgetown gives us it really helps you tackle issues on the ground. So I had an opportunity to work on a lot of, I grew up in my entire life in Qatar, and I was very interested in migration-related issues, and it's something that became very pivotal during my time in Georgetown. And at the university, we got a lot more chances to actually work on, actually delve into these topics and look at them in detail and sort of really understand what are the deep complexities of this thing. So we had a chance to go on a community engagement program trip to the Philippines, where we actually engaged with stakeholders across the government in the Philippines. We got to engage with stakeholders from different, we got to meet with migration agencies. We got to meet with actual migrants that had gone through the entire experience and returned to the Philippines. And we sort of took those lessons and actually applied it to a project we were working on in Qatar. And at that time, I was working we were funded by Qatar's National Research Fund, as students, you have an opportunity to apply for research grants. And something that we were really interested in was how do we empower migrants to have better financial literacy? So we took that, we got a $60,000 grant as students, which is very unlikely. It's very unlikely that you'll receive this even on main campus. On main campus, even the grants are very small. So this is your very unique opportunity that you get in Qatar, that you get to actually experience a lot more diverse. You get a lot more backing and support, not just from your professors, but also from the institution on actually diving into a field. So with this research grant, we had an opportunity to spend an entire year actually tackling this topic, and we worked with organizations like the International Labour Organization and Freedom from Hunger, and we really got that, we really sort of tried to apply what we were learning in our classes at that time and actually sort of put it into practice to something that would be beneficial for a larger community. And I guess I'll just end on the note, whereas Georgetown, I really miss Georgetown. It's a really fun experience. Admissions time is probably the hardest time you'll have. I mean, even though you'll have some really challenging classes in university, it's a really exciting place to be at, and the types of people you're surrounded by and the type of community, you really miss that once you actually graduate and you sort of go to the corporate world or you go to the public sector, and you don't have that discourse that you normally have in a place like Georgetown. So yeah, apply to Georgetown. It's a nice place to be. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Salman, for sharing your extremely fruitful experience here at Georgetown University. Another one of our notable alumni is Harun Yassin. Harun is a graduate of also class of 2016. As a first-year student, Harun established an award-winning organization here at Georgetown titled Ikhwat-e-Awam, which is Persian for Brotherhood of the People. This student-created, student-led organization has successfully overseen the education of poor children in Pakistan through a volunteer-led school. He and another alumni, Ahwaz Akhtar, are currently running Orenda. Orenda is an organization that they created while they were students here at Georgetown, which was focused on providing education to underserviced youth in Pakistan who had previously either not enrolled or dropped out of school. Since graduating, Harun had spent the last 2 years completely focusing on this initiative, which has since grown to work with more than 1,300 children across Pakistan. Unfortunately, Harun was unable to join us this evening. However, he recorded a message for you guys this evening. So let's take a look.
Hello there, prospective hoyas. My name is Harun Yassin, and I really wish I could have been there with you at the open house to talk to you in person. But unfortunately, I've had to fly out just before the open house. So this is me and my experience at Georgetown's campus. After my graduation, I moved back to Pakistan to launch my own company by the name of Renda, and we've been trying to provide education to underserved children living in remote rural communities around the country. In just 2 years, we've reached out to over 1,300 children who are out of school across the entire country and received official recognition from the government. And this is why I'm back here in Qatar to give back to the community and to talk about our experiences and our successes running this company back in Pakistan. Yeah, I feel like Georgetown was a very, very unique experience in terms of the values that it supports and the values it claims to have. In my very first year, at the end of my first year, we traveled to Auschwitz. And I remember coming from Islamabad, having never heard so much about the crisis that happened in Europe, and all of a sudden being exposed to the injustice that existed in the world. And then to be empowered at the end of it to say, the world is not the place that it should be like, but there's something that we can do to improve it. There's one Georgetown value, women and men for others, which I feel like I particularly associated with. And I think what happened over the course of my 3 years here at Georgetown was that I really came in with a sense of why the world was broken in so many ways, and I left with a deep sense of what I can do to improve things in the world. And I think that's something that's very special about Georgetown. The sort of students that you'll be meeting with, they're all socially active. They all think about the society and its future as a whole. And I think that this mix of students makes the whole place very, very special. I think my favorite part was definitely the small class size and the type of professors that we got. So I've also been studying in Georgetown's main campus, and I've also been to other universities. What was so special at Georgetown was a really small class size, so you could get to pick the brains of some really brilliant professors and have one-on-one interactions with them. I remember after I graduated, I was unsure as to whether I should commit my life to a project that really didn't have any prospective success at all. It was a very unsure step. And I remember at that time, all of the professors at Georgetown were really, really supportive. And they were actually the ones who pushed me to pursue what I really wanted to do. So the close connection that I built with the professors at Georgetown, it still goes strong till today. They're still my mentors, and I think they'll continue to be for a lifetime. I think you should definitely do it. I think it's one of the best decisions that you'll be able to make, because as soon as you come into Georgetown, you'll be thrown into a situation where you meet students coming from all sorts of backgrounds. One of the things that you'll realize is you'll see so many stories, see so many inspirational stories in the students around you. Then you're going to be put through a very rigorous curriculum, which allows you to look at the world with a very distinct angle. Lastly, that's combined with the zones and CEP trips, which is Georgetown students going to places of conflict and poverty all around the world to see what we can do as future citizens to help make this world a better place. By the time you graduate, you'll be empowered to leave a deep mark in whichever community you move to. And I think that's something that no other university can offer you. I personally submitted my application 30 minutes before the application's closed for Georgetown. Don't do that. I'm very, very glad that I did though. And I'm very glad I went through this experience. And the Hoya within me lives 3 years on after my graduation, and I think it will live on forever. So if you're close enough that you're at the open day thinking about Georgetown, I would say go for it. There's nothing better to do, and I think it's going to be one of the best choices that you make. Oh yeah, Saxa!
So after hearing about the admissions process and the QF grant and hearing about the academics and the opportunities, I would like to welcome back to the stage Dean Brendan Hill to talk a little bit about the Georgetown experience and why it matters.
You've heard a lot today, so I'm going to keep this rather short. But I want to build on something that Professor Alonso said earlier. The Georgetown experience, why it matters, why are we here, what do we do, why are we preparing students the way we are preparing students? And there's no better example of it than the crisis that has developed in the Gulf since June. And you look at what we teach here, and it's very easy when you're contemplating a career like, or a school that teaches engineering, to know what you're going to be when you grow up and how you're going to contribute. You're going to be an engineer. You don't have to change that many letters. If you're going to a journalism school, you're going to be a journalist. Again, just a few letters changed. But why? How do you become an international relator? There's no such job, but there's so many jobs in international relations. And all of the ways that we become international relators are really, and the importance of becoming an international relator, trademark, is seen and manifested in this crisis that Qatar now finds itself in. We talked about the 4 majors that you have before you. So let's talk about relevancy. You know, a lot of times when you're telling your parents, I'm going to a liberal arts college that's going to teach me international relations by teaching me philosophy and theology and history and culture and economics, and they just look at you like, no, you're going to be an engineer, or you're going to be a doctor, this one is too hard for me to figure out, or that this might sound irrelevant. Look at the relevance of all of this. International politics, I mean, that's an obvious one for the situation that we find ourselves in today in this country that we love. What is international politics going to teach you as citizens of Qatar, as residents of Qatar, about this crisis? Well, I mean, it almost goes without saying. International politics is about how state actors interact with one another. It's about how the people within the states interact with the states themselves. So that's an obvious one. International history. I mean, anybody who, there are tons of Americans who probably have never heard of Qatar or couldn't place Qatar on a map, or maybe know about Saudi Arabia or the Emirates, but they have no idea where they are. So when they see this crisis that's developing, when I talk to my friends back in the States, well, not friends, but people back in the States, let's say, my friends know. One of the first things they ask me is why? Why did this happen? This came out of the blue. Nothing comes out of the blue. There is a history to this crisis. It's a long history and a short history. Studying international history is going to take you toward the end of it, to get you better able to understand the sort of pressures the development of the pressures that created the political situation that we're in now. Does culture have anything to do with this? Of course culture has something to do with this. In many ways, culture and politics, as Professor Koons was saying, is all about the power that culture imparts. What role has culture played in this crisis that's, pitting family against family, pitting brother against brother? How can that culture, if that culture and the divergences in that culture is what created this, how can that culture help to make the region whole again? These are important considerations. Now, of course, this has nothing to do with economics. That's just silly. Economics is at the core of what this is about in so many different ways. So it's unfortunate that it took a crisis like what happened in the GCC, in this region, to show so many people how extremely relevant what we do is. And the best part of what we're doing, and this is to build on what Professor Koons was saying, the best part of what we're doing is you're not just picking one of these majors. Yes, that's your concentration, but you will learn all of these things in your first 2 years here, and you will continue to learn them on, and you will learn the intersections of them. So this year, it's really easy to answer the question about why Georgetown matters and why Georgetown matters in Qatar, because it's in every headline every day. I want to thank you again on behalf of Georgetown for coming here. If you have any questions for me or for anybody else, please see us afterwards. I'll turn it back over to the moderator now.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank all our speakers for their highly informative and highly inspiring speeches. Please join us outside for the fair, where all the speakers will be available to answer your questions. And if you're interested in a campus tour, please find Maryam. Maryam, are you here? Okay, she's not here, but I'll point her out for you outside. For those of you joining us online, one of our admissions officers will remain to answer the questions you may have. Thank you, everyone, once again, and have a lovely evening.